Welcome to Business Class. I'm Steve Ekstrom from Learn Tourism, a nonprofit academy dedicated to advancing the tourism industry through innovative training and sustainable practices. Our mission? To empower travel professionals and communities with the knowledge they need to create meaningful, authentic, and sustainable tourism experiences. Ready to join us on this journey? Visit learntourism.org and start making a difference today.
My name is Jeff Knapp. I am the president and CEO of Visit Bend here in Bend, Oregon, Central Oregon. And thanks for having me.
It is so great to connect with you and to share your story here on the podcast. How did you end up in Bend?
That is a long story. How did I end up in Bend? Ultimately, I grew up in Kansas, and 24 years ago, in my 20s, I made a list of things that were important to me for a place to live and a community, and did a bunch of traveling and looked at different places and had my eyes on Oregon and set my sights on Oregon, moved here in the early 2000s to Oregon and followed a career path, indirect career path, starting in hospitality from my grandpa's hamburger stand called Mr. Swiss, where he grew up learning the joys of engaging humans and in service of food and conversation. It was like a little before food truck is the brick and mortar version of a food truck, just a small little. Anyhow, I caught the fever for their hospitality and realized I just loved hospitality. Went through all the different things, restaurant management, hotel management, cooking schools, all sorts of stuff. Ended up choosing the wine industry to get interested in, and ended up moving to wine country in Oregon at the right place at the right time, and had a lot of great opportunities to run winery and bring hospitality to Oregon wine industry. And through that, found my way to distilling all those things down to tourism or the visitor economy, and ended up starting a DMO and destination management organization, a former marketing organization. Did that for a long 9 years or so, and ended up intentionally throwing my hat in the ring for this role in Visit in Bend because of the progressive nature of their work, and it really aligned with all of my goals and aspirations and skills. And I'm very honored to serve in this position and get to do it here in such a beautiful place. That was a lot, but
Okay, it's fine.
if we were to distill, because I've thought about this a lot, really, I distill it all down to the Goonies. So watching the Goonies as a child put this all in motion because I saw where they lived and I was like, that's incredible. It was the furthest thing from Kansas that I could imagine. I'm like, there's a place like this? And yeah, there's a whole story with that, but that's ultimately how I got here.
The Goonies is one of my favorite movies. Tell me this, what's a critical lesson you learned from working with your grandfather and the hamburger stand that you carry with you to the work that you do now?
A testament to just the hard work and the importance of, I think, relationship through service. Really, I was young. My mom would drop me out. He was a one-man operation. He retired from working at Sears when you could retire from working at Sears. He had a large family. He had 7 kids, and his house that he lived in was a house that he literally bought out of a Sears catalog. When they sold houses, he said, I want that one. He was a hardworking guy. He never very meager means, but when he retired from working in service at Sears, he started his own hamburger. I guess it was a little franchise, and it was basically a food truck in the sense that he was the only employee, and it was in an industrial part of town. It wasn't like it served factory workers on either side. So my mom would drop me off there probably for babysitting or kid sitting. And he taught me, I ran the counter as a 9-year-old and taught me how to make change and introduced me to these people who would come in and have lunch every day that he had personal relationships with, when they knew all about their family and what was going on. It was fun. Everyone loved him, and he was an important part of their life through serving cheeseburgers. I guess I took away from that no job is too small, and that the importance of is you love what you're doing. He did, and he managed to make it, I don't know, really interesting. I love that it was also theatrical. It's like a stage. He's behind this on stage as people are coming to him, and they could go anywhere for a cheeseburger. They're there because he's cooking it for them. They know about his family because they're chatting while he's cooking, and They loved him. I don't know. That I just took it was a spark of that this was an option. I never worked in cheeseburgers, but I jumped in above all of that when I was legal enough to officially work. I got paid in quarters to put him in the Miss Pac-Man machine after. So he would
Nice.
give me an envelope. I'd get to go over and play Miss Pac-Man and thought it was like the best thing in the world.
That's awesome. You say you love hospitality. What is something you love about it that you hope other people grasp onto?
It's provided me a very unclear path, but a really exciting path and afforded me a life where I could do what I do anywhere. Again, I like people. At the end of the day, I like humans and human relationships. And when I think about how we look at those things, I don't think our society values service. They look at it as a smaller thing, whether it's military service or service organizations. We see Rotary, Lions Club, all of those things dwindling. Generations aren't moving into that where churches numbers are going down, and these are the parts of our society where we used to take care of service, and now people are looking to the government and all of these institutions because they're not showing up to serve. I guess through mine is like I've had a life of exploring different countries and being exposed to different foods. It was a path for me to leave, to be exposed at a time before the internet, before all these things. There's a greater world out there. It was through food. I got a job as a busboy at the only like locally owned restaurant in Wichita, Kansas. It was the place where I'd never had a spinach salad or seen a pine nut. It was the early 90s, and it was a melting pot for all sort of people. Women were in charge, and they were managers, and the owner was a woman, and the community, the LGBTQ drag queen population in Wichita, Kansas in the early 90s worked there. And there was this amazing community. These are real people doing this amazing thing. And it opened my eyes to the world that there's a lot to explore. And it's provided me a really enjoyable, not always the easiest journey, but there's so many different things that the tentacles reach out and touch. I'm a big advocate for hospitality as a career and a career path. I think that in Oregon, I'm really heading up the movement. I think with the advancement of AI, I'm on a soapbox and I'm jumping all over the place here, but I think we're moving from this place where values, human engagement is so virtual and everyone's worried about robots and AI taking over human jobs. And what I think is that it's really going to free us up to focus on the things that make us human. And at the core of that is that human to human trust and relationship that you build from someone making you feel comfortable about making a wine recommendation or making a recommendation on what trail to use. And I think that I hope that we'll start to see the service portion of humanity being elevated, because I don't think that's something that can be replicated through AI, that trust. So that's my hope.
It's funny that you mentioned the spinach salad. I reached into the fridge and grabbed the Caesar salad. And as I'm mixing it up, I had this moment thinking to myself, similar, working in a restaurant, the family-owned restaurant in a small town, and thinking, my gosh, these are so fancy.
Yeah. Wow. What is all I know is for Popeye or canned spinach, or I would never eat a vegetable. What is this?
What's something you'd love to learn?
Oh, there's so much. What would I love to learn? Like skill wise, internally, I think I'm always trying to learn on just improving myself. I'd like to learn internally what's enough. Like what is enough on all levels, being comfortable and content with how much should or could we be working, or could we or should we be making, or should or could I be feeling? Skill wise, man, I'd love to learn I think if I had the time and the money, I'd love to learn how to fly. I'd love to learn how to pilot things. I'd love to learn how to play multiple instruments. I'd love to learn I really am interested in AI. I really love to learn more about the opportunities and think about how we could use that for the benefit of what we do currently.
So do you consider yourself a nerd?
Oh, absolutely. I think and the best part of it is that I grew up in a time where all the things as a young person and through my life are cool now. Like all the things that made me a nerd by 80s and 90s standards are like, oh, that's cool now. So yes, I feel like I am a total nerd and proud of it.
What's a piece of advice you would give to somebody who's just starting out and dipping their toe in the water of hospitality, not sure where it's going to take them. What's the great advice there?
I've always liked to look for places that I share a commonality with and so are an interest in, and not looking at it as just a job. Where am I going to be able to learn more about whether it's a type of food or a type of experience and I would say just align yourself with people that you feel like or places that you want to be more like or learn more about and show up with a positive attitude.
I think that's great advice. To be a lifelong learner is hugely valuable in any career path, but especially this one where we learn every day from the spaces around us. We learn from the visitors that we host, and we learn from the places that we visit.
Yeah, absolutely. It teaches you to listen, I think, and to be good at hospitality, you need to listen because you're trying to hopefully connect in a meaningful way and find out what this person is, how best to serve them. Always looking for a yes. And I think that's the thing about the hospitality industry, and it gets often looked down upon on some levels, is because it's not a clear trajectory to a lot of different things. At the end of the day, I think it's the best launching pad for any career. Whether you decide to make it a lifelong lesson you learn or a lifelong endeavor, you learn all these important things. One-on-one communication, how to handle situations, like every single person's different. Think on your feet, multitask. There's just so many core things. I've done a lot of speaking at conferences and things on this topic and engaging in the room, and you get in a room full of folks, whether they're in the hospitality industry or not, you're speaking to whomever and you're asking them like how many people have worked in hospitality. 90% of that room goes, they could all be dentists. They could all be financial guys. The majority of the room, some people, you spend some time in there and maybe it's not your permanent career, but it definitely is a basis for success in whatever you're going to do later in life.
What's the greatest misconception about what you do?
Particularly in destination stewardship is how I look at our work, is that we are a extraction-based effort, that we are here to support and fill hotels. At least in Oregon, our funding mechanism is through lodging tax. I think that the biggest misconception is that's what we do. Our main goal is to make as much money for hotels and that's not what we do. And I think that we're at the tip of in a successful. It's funny. The industry for destination management, however you look at it, is a smaller community. That's what they want. They want more visitors. They want to leverage that. They want more people to come. They want to grow their community. And then it gets to a point where, we're growing too fast, or we've reached a point where we're no longer what we used to be. And then with more people come more opportunities, but also more concern. It's just this sort of never ending. We are the tip of spear for change. And in Bend particularly, we're experiencing rapid growth, rapid investment, lots of resources, the majority of which go back into the city to pay for police and fire. So I think there's a big misconception, at least around our industry particularly, and it's more than just hospitality. In my opinion, it is like the ultimate, like if you were to take the arc of starting in service, it is the full extent to where you're now leveraging all of those hospitality skills that we have and those connections and that economy and all of that to serve the community. And I think that's what makes me the most excited about what we do.
In what way would you like to leave the community better than you found it?
Before we dive back in, a quick word from our sponsor, Learn Tourism, the nonprofit academy, where we're dedicated to transforming the tourism industry with 4 key services. Our cutting-edge learning experience platform, which offers robust analytics and seamless updates. Our custom course development, which ensures tailored learning solutions. Subject matter experts who provide deep insights and valuable knowledge. And of course, our engaging speakers who are here to inspire and educate with impactful presentations. Discover how we can elevate your tourism education at learntourism.org.
Oh, I'm a proponent for expansion of diversity and accessibility and just more an expansion of culture, because I think culture breeds, I think everything's around that. And culture being a broad term, but I'd like to leave it where things are in balance. I think the biggest thing for us for me is balance. That we have a inclusive community, that anyone feels comfortable visiting or living here, and that they're able to afford to live here, and that they see opportunities to continue to remain here, raise family here, that their children don't grow up here and decide they want to go, that they want to stay in and bring some of those skills and that history to build upon and keep a balanced legacy.
What is the greatest kindness that you've experienced?
Wow. That is a really profound question, and I really appreciate it. I've never ever stopped to think of that. I see kindness in the service of, I see the people that are showing up. So I've worked in communities where several different sizes of communities, but oftentimes there are these volunteer people that are on city councils or that are on any number of committees that are trying to show up to help make things better or to help bring answers to these larger things. I equate that service to kindness, because it's also generosity and selflessness in some levels, whether you're not just serving for the sake of power. But like on a local level, I see kindness every day when you're showing up to the tables and trying to be part of the greater solutions. I just admire people that are willing to make the time to show up and be kind. The greatest kindness, that I've ever witnessed.
It's a good thing to reflect on.
Yeah.
Later.
Wow, it is. I think I will reflect. I definitely will. I'll be thinking about that one forever, that I've witnessed. I go back to my grandparents and things, and like the resources that they had versus the lives that they had and how they carried themselves and treated others was also very inspirational to me. And I guess a kindness in sorts.
How would you like other people to describe you?
I would love other people to describe me as a fearless change agent, a fearless shepherd of change.
What would you say to your 18-year-old self?
Don't be in such a hurry to grow up, and quit shoulding on yourselves. All the shoulds. I should be doing this, or I should be doing that. I think some of the greatest advice I would give myself is just listen to your gut. You're right. When I think about my fears were all based in my sort of inner voice, not aligning with my local community voice or my peers' voices. And once I stopped and just followed what I felt was right, turns out that's when things started getting a lot easier. So that's what I would.
It's important to have that sort of North Star against which you can make those decisions.
Yeah, and find a mentor, or find someone that you're like, what is up with this person? What is she doing? Like, how I'd like to be more like that. And don't be afraid to ask questions and get up there. And if there's one thing I've learned is that people love to talk about themselves. Here I am doing it. Ask them some questions. And the way will make itself clear. Like, how did informational interviews do as many as you can? Just be curious.
What would you like to ask me?
I would love to ask you a lot of questions. And in this position, in this van, going around talking to people.
I just celebrated my 3rd anniversary in the van.
Congratulations.
Thank you. It started as I'm going to take a 2 or 3 month road trip. And I started putting more pins on the map of places that I'd wanted to check out, or things that I thought were interesting, or friends that I hadn't seen in a while. And next thing you know, I've been playing a great game of connect the dots for the last 3 years.
Yeah. And that's an example of leaning into it and saying, oh, this thing leads to this thing. And then how great. And that's amazing. What's the kindest thing you have ever witnessed?
Selflessness of my grandparents. The people who demonstrate their faith through their actions, regardless of what their faith may be, if they have one, and lead with kindness and generosity.
Well, I got very similar. This idea of like abundance, this idea of feeling as if there's abundance that you want to share with folks, even in the absence of real monetary abundance or whatever those things are, that kindness and generosity, I can see that. I think that's at the heart of, how did you get into this? Tell me your story.
Sure. So I started working in hospitality.
Mm-hmm.
I was in high school and junior high. The substitute teacher's mom owned the restaurant, and I would mow their lawn, and next thing they're short staffed on a Thursday, and men and bus tables. Sure. Why not? What else am I doing? That was my first experiences working in restaurants. And then after college, I went to waiting tables, not sure what I would do next.
Yep.
Became a sales manager at a theme restaurant, had a little stint working in the staffing industry with a company that did permanent placements and executive placements, but also temporary placements. And I was in the sales role. And that was such an incredible learning experience because I got to see all different types of cultures,
Yeah.
businesses, and environments and people that you could possibly work with. And I'm like, these all suck. I like the restaurant folks. They're cool. They get it. They
Yeah.
enjoy what they're doing and they're having fun and sharing that energy with others. So then I took that to go work at museums and attractions and activities. Started consulting almost 15 years ago, mostly with destinations and helping to build product and bring it to market and identify product. And about 10 years ago, there was a spark. Most of the education in the industry sucks. What would it take to make it better? That back burner project, learning and testing and trials and different experiences and interviews. We did that for about 5 years. And then COVID struck. So my destination work evaporated overnight. And this back burner project about education, I'm like, it's time. It's time to make that a full-time gig, to do something that is greater than myself and for a greater good than I could possibly ever give. We started as a nonprofit. We saw almost 30,000 students enroll with us last year, just a year.
So 30,000 people enroll, and
Yeah.
what are they enrolling in?
There's a collection of skill-based courses, professional skill-based courses that are relatable to anybody, anywhere in finance, sales, accounting, customer service, HR, and you name it. There are tourism ambassador programs in nearly 50 U.S. and Canadian destinations that run through our technology, and we've advised in instructional design and helped build curriculum for those. We do English for tourism abroad. So we had 3,000 students in Saudi Arabia this spring who were learning English for new jobs in hotels and restaurants and attractions that are being built.
Yeah.
We've got schools in Nepal and in Africa where we're working with small communities, mostly women in those communities, to develop sustainable tourism economies. It just grows. And of course, there's like travel agents that want to get their certifications in this, that, or the other thing, or learn about product, or anything is learnable.
Yeah. Who's doing it?
We are.
Yeah. What communities are approaching things or that make you feel perspectives that you would say, oh, there's some aspirational things here to glean?
So there are some great programs being run. I'll say, like in the tourism ambassador space, great programs being run in small and mid-sized destinations. Visit Lexington, fantastic program. Sonia Nash in Shipshawana has a great program for a small destination, which is also a very heavily Amish community with an online course component.
Yeah.
It's fascinating. And then you have bigger destinations like, Baltimore and Detroit, and they get it. They're talking to the community on the community's terms and reaching learners where they're coming from. And I think that's a huge benefit to those organizations that they're able to do that. When it comes to some of the smartest folks I've seen working in tourism development, I was in Saudi Arabia for a couple of weeks this past summer. And I tell you, the people who are working on their development projects are some of the smartest I've ever met.
They can attract some talent too, I imagine.
A lot of it is homegrown talent. They did a scholarship program where anybody that completes high school can go abroad to study and get their secondary degree. So their graduate degrees, and then they all come back and are working together. What was really interesting about it was that, yes, you have people who are focused on developing infrastructure, and you have people who are focused on building and construction, but there are entire teams dedicated to impact and social inclusion.
Yeah.
For everybody. And that was something that a lot of organizations don't have the bandwidth for, if they have the interest in it.
Yeah. Yes. At first you have to make it a priority, and then you have to figure out how you're going to do it.
Exactly.
Wow. I'm stuck in a headspace of trying to help find solutions, of providing roadmaps for career pathways and getting our industry, hospitality in a broad sense, a stronger representation in traditional traded sector economic development kind of investments. The online portion is great. That's a low barrier to access, and it provides a whole lot of value. And I just really see, for me, I'd love to see a model where people are also then hands-on learning and not necessarily paying for that education, but getting paid.
almost every program that we work with on like ambassador programs for
Yeah.
and workforce development programs,
Yeah.
almost every single one of those has some sort of in-person component.
Yeah.
Whether that's a community check-in challenge where they have to go out and meet business owners and visit museums and attractions and talk to people, or
Yeah.
it's every 6 months they do a walking tour of downtown where they get to meet the CPB staff and get to chat with each other, and
Yeah.
or it's a structured lesson and a networking reception or reward. You can't replace that in-person connection. That
Nope.
people, you can't replace people.
You can't. And that's the key to, I think, success on most levels is like the differentiator, at least, I think, in the people that are most successful is their engagement or their, how they treat human relationships, whether it's internally and culturally with the organization that you are operating, whether it's the community, whether it's who you're serving. I think that's, to me, has always been the relationship part of it. It's been the differentiator.
And I think that is key. And I also think it's that open mindset, that learning mindset and wanting to learn. And I tell people,
I did.
Well, we're an educational organization, but before we could ever be educators, we had to be learners.
Yeah. Gosh, what a time to be alive. I think we live at a time with so much access to anything and it's overwhelming with so many choices, right? Where do you start? You can learn anything. Or you can have access to attempt to learn or be inspired to learn. I think the challenge for me, if I were growing up, if I had this technology from the time that I was young, I would feel paralyzed with the choices because it's like when you sit down to make a picture and you have choice of every color. Where do you start? If you have 3 colors, it leaves some boundaries and it's a lot easier to roll with. But anyway.
I can see that analysis paralysis. Yeah, I could definitely see that. I'm glad I grew up when I did. And I think there's a lot for us to learn from kids that are growing now.
For sure. I'd really love, if you're ever in Bend or out this way, I'd love to meet you in person. If I can ever be of help, the work that you do, I'm happy to network and connect to people that may be interested in have those needs. And please, it was a pleasure to chat.
If folks want to plan a trip to Bend, how would they go about doing so?
You can just get on the web. You can just look up visitbend.com. Great airport, fly right in, easy access. It's great.
I appreciate you. This has been a really delightful conversation. So thank you for sharing.
Steven, thanks for the good work you're doing out there, and good luck on going with the flow and finding the next place to park your van and talk to another person.
It's living the dream, my friend, living the dream.
All right.
Thanks for tuning in to Business Class. This episode was brought to you by Learn Tourism, the nonprofit academy where we advance the tourism industry with cutting-edge training and sustainable practices. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to visit learntourism.org to learn more about our programs and how you can get involved. Until next time, stay curious, continue learning and making a difference through tourism.